This conference will now be recorded.
With that said, I think the last time we were together was pre-Christmas, and we haven't been together since. So I wish everybody a happy, healthy, and safe New Year.
You as well.
The safe is a COVID addition, which we probably are going to live with for several months to come. Very brief agenda tonight. I apologize for that, but there hasn't been much going on since the last board meeting. So we'll take up the approval of the village board meetings of our last meeting, December 21st. Are there any changes or omissions or additions that should be made?
So moved.
Peter, is there a second?
Second.
Is that Art or Jason?
I think it was only one.
Flip a coin, I guess.
Okay. All in favor of accepting the minutes as presented, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, minutes are accepted. Thank you. The next item we have is a request from the electric department. You may recall that we authorized the department to put out an RFP for bids on several pad-mounted transformers that are necessary to rebuild their inventory, which has been depleted over the last several months. You have in front of you the analysis by PLM of the bids that were received. And in each case, it appears that the low bidder was a group called Delta Y. There are 17 pad mount units represented in this bid, and the total bid is $32,452. You might note that these will take anywhere from 26 to 28 weeks before the department will take delivery of them. And in this case, the recommendation is that the bid be awarded to the low bidder, which is Delta Y, for the $32,452, as I outlined. We have a motion.
So moved.
Is that Jason? Second? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, we'll let Kimball go on with that. The next item we have is the annual contract with Mountain Medical and Standard Medical Services, who provide certain testing services to the village, and the rates for their various services are outlined in the letter that's in your packet. Anita, the only question I would have is the yearly administrative fee. There's a distinction between 10 or more employees and 9 or less. Can you define that a little bit?
Honestly, I can ask them about it, but I mean, I think we clearly have more than 10 that are sent for testing, so I would think we fall into that category.
Okay, so I'm assuming that we fall into that category and that's the aggregate, because we're larger than, certainly larger than 10.
Right.
It's
Yeah,
a one-time.
That is my understanding.
It's a one-time fee. The other fees appeared to be in line with previous years.
Yes.
And I guess the federal mileage rate has not yet been completely defined. It appears that they've modified their.
Well, I modified that.
Okay. Oh, so it is a federal mileage.
Yes, yeah.
Okay, makes sense. Any other questions, gentlemen, ladies, as far as the proposed renewal of this agreement is concerned? I think we're satisfied that the services have been suitable for the village.
Yep. They're responsive when we need them.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All right, Peter. Any further discussion? If not, we'll call the motion. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion passes. Next item we have is a request for Justin Roy and Brady Hayes to participate in an online training seminar to take place at a date, I guess, to be determined. Total cost will be $50 per individual, so we're looking at $100. It's required for licensing, and it has to do with the annual code enforcement in-service training and recertification. And its purpose is to keep people so certified up to date with the latest fire codes. I certainly recommend that that be done since they took all of the required training. Before I mention this, I think I'll bring up another matter which isn't fully worked out yet. But at the time that we agreed that members of our fire drivers group could participate as inspectors, the training they took place last summer. Recently, I've had communications with Mike at Orticelli's office, indicating and recommending that we establish appropriate compensation for them, which would be over and above what their normal compensation is as fire drivers, or in Justin's case, as a fire driver head. I have briefly discussed the matter with Brian Kremer, because anytime we put new services on employees, there's a potential for the collective bargaining agreement to raise a question. So wanting to head that off before it became a possibility, I did speak to him. I will be meeting with the town, probably Jack Favreau, maybe Jay, and Justin and Bill to see if we can reconcile what the appropriate rate would be. The Mike and the town feel that there should be some additional compensation for people with this. The compensation rates that they suggested seemed a little bit consistent with what we would normally do for any other activity that takes place. And in the fire department, we do use stipends. We have a mechanic that we give a weekly stipend to for extra work. We have a training officer that we have approved a stipend for. So what the supervisor and I discussed was the possibility of an hourly rate, because some inspections take an hour, some take several hours. And I told him I would be discussing that with the board tonight, not for approval tonight, but just to get a sense of how you all feel. The other part that Mike O is asking for is that they be designated as fire marshals. And the explanation for that request is that that opens up the possibility of some grant funding for future training for them that may not be available to them right now. So those are topics that we will be discussing. I'll bring them to the next board, presuming we can get agreement on them. What Jay and I were discussing earlier today was a possibility maybe of a stipend that would be in the level of $20 an hour. Coming up with an annual stipend doesn't work. You might have one individual who does 3 or 4 inspections. You might have another one who does 50. And I said, well, then you've got to somehow the compensation, if we're in fact going to do it that way, needs to be equitable. So there's more conversation on that. I just wanted to inform you of the fact that conversation is taking place. I would anticipate that we would have a proposal that hopefully is acceptable to all parties for our next meeting. So having said that, this is continuing education for Justin and Brady Hayes. And I would ask for a motion authorizing them to attend that session, which doesn't require any travel or lodging or food.
So moved. Second.
Further discussion on that point? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, we can get that one done. Added to our agenda tonight, it was received earlier today from Chief Moore, was a memorandum from Chuck Langlois, who you may recall is now a retired employee of the village, indicating an interest in continuing the possibility of serving the village in the capacity as a part-time police officer. The cover memorandum that came addressed to the mayor and the board from Chief Moore just says, at this time, I request that we hire former patrolman Chuck Langlois as a part-time employee for the Lake Placid Police Department. I feel he would make a good addition to our part-time staff.
I thought we already did that. Or was it just
Well,
understood?
we may have discussed it, but we didn't have a request.
Yeah, we never officially.
But obviously, he retired with good credentials. There's no reason why we wouldn't want to keep the service available to the extent that it's needed.
I spoke to him today. He said he hates being retired.
Well, I think we all,
During COVID, there's nothing to do, so I get it.
yeah.
Obviously, he doesn't have Netflix.
Yeah,
Any,
it gets old.
I'll give him my passcode.
Art and Scott, as police commissioners, any comments on that request?
I definitely think we should do it.
Okay. Art,
Yeah,
you're,
it's always great to have people in the wings that are willing to work when you need them and not when you don't. You never know when someone's going to have a vacation or a problem or a sickness, so.
well, we've been down that road, and I certainly do support the request. I think having an inventory of part-time officers that are qualified is critical to keeping good staffing in the department for sure at times.
We
So,
also know the quality of his work.
that's right. So do we have a motion?
So moved.
Scott,
Second.
is that Art?
Yes.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, I think that's good news for the department. Anything else needed to come before the board?
No, that was all.
Craig, 2 weeks ago, we deferred the Osable River.
Yes, I spoke with Liz Clark, and she was going to have Kelly, her executive director, draft a proposed agreement to cover that. So that should be coming in.
We haven't seen it.
I haven't seen it. But yes, we want to keep track of that.
And Mindy and I looked it up. We had given them, I want to say, $2,000 prior years and funneled it through Mirror Lake Watershed Association. So
Yeah.
it is a little bit more money.
Yeah, the difference with this one, and the reason we're doing it the way we are, is that Osable River has a substantial grant that required a match of funds. So it will allow them to conduct at least 3, if not all 5 years of a 5-year study that the grant was granted for.
Okay.
So no, we'll keep on top of that. Especially since the strength of the ice doesn't seem all that secure in front of the Golden Arrow. But I have to say that I'm very impressed with the lid on the coffee cup. He didn't spill a drop.
He said, that's my nephew. He said the worst thing is he ruined his bagel. He had bagel in his coat. Lost his bagel.
Well,
Didn't care about cell phone, but bagel.
thank God he had the presence of mind to protect
He's
himself.
Billy Madden's son, so he knew how to get out of water.
Peter, you didn't send him out there to test the ice, did you?
Probably did.
You know, Used to be me doing that. Now the young guys do that. Somebody's got to do it.
Okay, if there's no new additional clerk items, we'll move on to the treasurer. And the only item we have from the treasurer tonight is the warrant. A copy of the detail went out to each and every one of you from the treasurer. Tonight's warrant totals in bills to be paid $1,038,957.66. In addition to that, you're being asked to approve customer utility refund checks that in total represented $1,314.56. I'll be happy to read the breakdown of those if you so wish. If you don't, I'm happy to entertain a motion.
Second.
I think Art made the motion.
Art, Peter. Any further discussion on the bills to be paid tonight? If not, I would call a motion. All in favor, please indicate.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the bills can be paid. Under old business, since the 21st of December, not much has happened. Main Street reconstruction and those related activities. There hasn't been any new activity on it. I think there is a meeting, and I'll alert you folks. There'll be a preliminary meeting with the contractor, and I think DOT will be at the table. And that's got to be coming up soon.
I
So
think it's mid-February.
it may be February at this point. It'll probably be a virtual meeting, I would guess, given that their meeting room is kind of small.
Craig, there's going to be a meeting in Janet's office concerning the DOT agreement on Wednesday, this 2 days,
Are you
concerning the DOT, who's responsible for what meeting.
okay? I'm not on Wednesday. Can you
Yeah, I'm
cover
gonna-
that?
I'm gonna-
Okay.
Peter, who's going to be present at the meeting?
Janet and Brad and Ivan and myself.
Okay.
Will it be a virtual meeting?
No, and Janet's off, right, Janet? You there?
Yes, she is. Can you hear us, Janet?
You need to project your voice, Janet.
Try unmuting yourself. I think you're muted.
She was
Oh,
unmuted.
can you hear me now?
Yes,
Yeah.
ma'am. Thank you.
Yeah, I was not muted before. That, Ivan just asked me to meet with him Wednesday at 2:00. I thought it was just Ivan and I. If it's going to be more people, it will not be at my office because I'm not allowing mass gatherings, if you call it my office. So if there's gonna be more, we'll relocate.
Well, it looks like you'll have 4 potentially if they're all attending, and it's possible that we could, if this room is available, that might be.
Okay, you want to communicate that to Ivan, or should I?
Yeah, I will, because my sense was it was just going to be Ivan and Brad and myself. I didn't know there were going to be others.
Well,
But I'll email Ivan and clarify who he has coming.
Well,
It'd be
Brad,
so
Brad
distant.
thought it would be a good idea if I came.
Pardon me?
Brad thought it would be a good idea if I was present.
No, and I'm not saying you shouldn't be there. I'm just saying that we'll have to maybe get a different room.
Yeah.
Okay. With
And
that-
I'll notify, I'll get in touch with Ivan.
Just the end result is just the clarification regarding what the village would like the DOT to be responsible, or is it the DOT is going to clarify what they are going to be responsible? Are we going to formalize an
The DOT
agreement?
is not going to be at this meeting. The meeting does not include the DOT. This is just to be among village. And Ivan has emailed me something to look at. I did not have a chance to look at it this morning. I don't know whether it's a proposed agreement or an agreement that some other community has with DOT, but it's not, DOT is not coming to this meeting.
Is there any reason why the rest of the board can't review that prior to the meeting? I know having a smaller number expedites the process, but
Well, I
there
don't
is-
think, well, you can review it prior to the meeting, but there's nothing, I mean, it's just something that Ivan provided me. I can share it and get your comments, but it's not the final thing. I don't even know what it is right now, Jason.
No. I apologize, Janet, because I don't want to direct it at you. It just seems to be there's these satellite things happening, and I understand that I'm preoccupied with school and keeping remote learning and all of these other items, so I might not be as free as, say, Art or Peter are during the day for these. But
I would call this a very preliminary review of what they might be looking at. As I said, if there's going to be 3 or more village board members there, it's fine with me, but it'll have to be posted as a meeting then, and the public will have to be invited.
Let me say this. My understanding at this moment, at least, is that it's preliminary to developing an agreement between the village and DOT.
Yep.
Any agreement of that nature will clearly have to come before this board before it can be executed.
sure.
So that gives you some relief, Jason, from your concern. I think we want to see an agreement. It's a critical part of getting DOT to move on to the work permit that they need to issue us eventually. But I agree with you that I think we all want to see what it is. But if this is purely a preliminary first look, I'm comfortable with Peter being present. I think that's helpful.
I think it's understood. This is not even an agreement that we know that, once, I haven't seen it. 2, that DOT will even go along with it. I think I was under the impression that when Ivan asked for a meeting, it was to meet and discuss what we think or understand is going to be the delineation of responsibility.
Sure.
And send that to DOT. This did not come from DOT.
Oh, certainly. I guess maybe this is more a symptom of it just having the whole board, and I understand that having the whole board slows the process down slightly, but having have it, instead of avoiding a rubber stamp, having more board members involved throughout the process, then as it comes to the full board, it just seems of late, and maybe because of the dynamics of COVID, there seems to be a couple of subgroups that kind of are moving a lot of agenda forward. And I just want to push, or at least put the brakes on and say, hey, let's be more inclusive and collaborative, I guess. And I understand, Janet, that like this meeting is turning to something that you weren't aware of. And I'm not speaking to that. I'm just speaking to the overall approach.
I have no issues with sharing it, but I would say let's share it after we've had the input of what we think it will be, so that it's, because right now it's a working document. It is not a public document.
Oh, sure. And I understand any document that comes before.
And I have no objection if school gets canceled, if it's a snow day, come to the meeting.
Well, climate change, that's not going to happen very often, so I'm not worried about that. But just
I'm
wanted to,
open to whatever you would like me to do, but right now, I think it's a work in progress to sit down and discuss, okay, from my discussions and what we had at the last board meeting, if you'll recall, we got Brad on the phone, and he was clearer about things than we were. So unless that clarity has changed, that's what I think will be our proposal to the DOT, is along the lines of what Brad educated us about at the last meeting.
If it helps everybody, there's a work session coming up a week from tomorrow. And by that time, I think Janet and Brad, who would undoubtedly be available, would be able to define what it is that, and I understand that the village is developing its understanding of what it will be responsible for, and that may be the first step to getting something together with DOT. But somebody as a working group has got to draft it. It still can't go anywhere until it's been authorized. But I do feel that in the interest of this, that, we have a work session a week later, and certainly it can be reviewed and discussed at that point. And at that point, we may know what it is that the village agrees that it would be willing to take responsibility for.
Okay. I just
I think it's good to remember that we have to come to an agreement, or we don't get the work permit.
sure. I just
So
don't.
that's-
This is I think this is more, I guess, Jan, I'm speaking, this is more of a symptom, and I don't want to discuss the symptom as opposed to what the underlying sort of overall issue is. This just seems that we conflate with a non-public document with the inability to share it with the whole board. And I just want to kind of, I wanted to bring, this was a perfect opportunity to talk about that greater issue. And I apologize that you somehow are in the middle of a conversation when you're like, I've been wanting to get a hold of me. And all of a sudden there's a larger conversation that you feel like you potentially could be dragged into. And I don't want you to think about that.
Jason, I'm a little bit concerned about your use of the word symptom. And in fact, there's no work is done by this village that everybody doesn't know about in one form or another. And I'm sorry if you feel that way, but the fact of the matter
You
is.
don't apologize how I feel, Mayor. I'm just telling you how I have experienced it. And it doesn't need to extend into this conversation. I just brought that up, and then we can have a conversation about it at a later date if you like. I just wanted to bring it up at this particular moment. And if you feel differently, that's fine too.
I don't feel differently, Jason. I just want to say that your use of the word symptom suggests something that is just absolutely not true or even happening.
I don't know what you're inferring, but I feel
what I'm concerned about, Jason, if you want to know the absolute truth, is you have a responsibility as a trustee to keep yourself informed of activities of the village board. I'm not sure that you always do that.
Or one would think, Mayor, since you wanted to extend this conversation, one would think that your desire to control information excludes people. I personally don't want to have this conversation here and now. If you would like to, I'm happy to have it. If you want to conduct the rest of the business, I'm happy to do that too.
Privately, Jason.
Jason, you're welcome to come in my office anytime and discuss any concern that you have. I rarely ever see you during the week. I realize you do work, but I'm here just about every day of the week.
No one questions that, Mayor. You put the work in, and I'm very proud of that.
Okay. Well, just be careful of the words you use, because they may have implications that people outside may not understand.
And they're happy, and then if they feel like they want to approach me and for an elaboration, I'm happy to do that too.
I think you can elaborate it right here.
In no way do I exaggerate. In no way do I speak the truth as I see it, and I'm happy to. And I've always been like that for 12 years. So I just wanted to pump the brakes a little bit and have this conversation to say, hey, let's be a little bit more inclusive. It wasn't with the explicit intent saying you're being extremely exclusive. You may have interpreted that, and I understand where that comes from, but I wanted to just pump the brakes on it just to be more inclusive. And we could have just went on, and more emails would have flowed, and everything would have been fine. So.
Okay, well, I've already indicated that the product that will come out of this meeting is a product that can be worked on in work session. Somebody has to develop the basic product. It does not exist today. It's not on the table.
Sure.
Janet, have you heard any more about the DOT's bond request being included in our bond?
Peter, I didn't catch all of that. Have I heard anything more about the DOT request about what?
The bond being included in our bond.
No, I did get a document today, once again from Ivan, that is something to do with the Kubricki, if you want to call it co-bonding, the village and DOT. So that's on the agenda, and I also got drawings from Ivan for the required easements on the private property that we're going to need for the Main Street project. So I'm thinking that all of that is going to be also subject of the meeting on Wednesday.
Okay,
Yes.
cool. Thank you.
Any other points on that topic? If not, we'll move on. Art, land use code updates, anything? I know the group is meeting, and I believe that there's a meeting coming up with the supervisor and Dean Dietrich and the mayor to bring them up to date.
Yeah, there was no meeting last week because of the holidays. And just a quick overview on the land code updates. Remember, it started out as we're doing the internal scoping, trying to come up with what our panel can come up with. That's pretty well done. We're just rounding out the last minute or finalizing the details. The next step now will be the external scoping, where we'll bring in different places like, say, the Shore Owners Association. And as you remember, there was going to be a professional consultant brought in at the end. But then with the town budget constraints and the money that might have been there going towards a comprehensive plan director, pretty much that's all going to be done by this committee. But the board will start to be getting a more detailed briefing once we get done with the internal scoping. And as far as short-term rentals go, the two really shouldn't be two separate categories. They're pretty much the same. And the only thing I would ask for that is ask Janet how the short-term rental lawsuit is going, if it's still waiting for the judge to make a ruling.
That is the status. I did speak to our attorney just before the holidays, just to see if there was any update. I was sure she'd call us the minute there's a decision, but there hasn't been, and it's still on the judge's desk.
Okay, and they never give you an idea if things are moving. It's just yes or no, huh?
Yes.
Okay. And then as far as the local government communication plan, Kate and the group are doing great things still. It's turning out that the village page is easier to work with than the town's page because of the fact that they can do test pages without putting them online. They've done quite a few of those. The court system, as I mentioned last time we talked, has already had a really good review, and I believe that might be already online. And they're continuing to take small bites, but the nice thing for us is the village will be first, and then the town will come later. And we're looking, of course, down the road, maybe 2 years before the two could be together, or hopefully sooner. And quite possibly this new LEAF or 2% bed tax money could be used to help stimulate that, but time will tell.
What do you mean stimulate? Just the integration of the two websites?
Well, I think part of the problem is this is going to cost money to bring in this integrated website. And as we know right now with COVID, the state's in a financially bad position. The government's in a bad position. We don't know how the people in Lake Placid are going to be. And our best hope might be for money from the LEAF group to help finalize the project.
I know we still have Digital Towpath as our web hosting, but we construct our own website, correct?
Well, they have, the reason they're so inexpensive is they have templates. They only cater to municipalities, and it's really just a template that you plug in. But one of the nice things on there, as I say, is that you can make a test page and not have it go public. The town doesn't have that ability, and that's one of the things that's really helping Kate. She can go in, do the work, let the village employees see what their input was, say yes or no, let the board or whomever approve it, and then it goes online. And that's hindering her work with the town because she can't do that.
Yeah, I think, does the town have Ad Workshop? Do they have Ad Workshop published? So yeah,
It's my knowledge, yes.
The cost is significantly different between the two.
Correct.
Okay.
But like I say, when the time comes that we do have a joint website that's interactive, which I think will be a great thing. And I think already the Justice Court is starting to be that way, interactive. If you go to something and you need town issues, it'll flop you over to their website. So the process has started.
I'll have to test it out. Has the town indicated whether they would go in a different direction as far as web hosting and management, or are they in a contract for an extent?
Nothing's been said on that. And I think that's far enough down the road that when the time comes, it'll be figured out, but nothing's been talked about yet.
Okay, because I'm just,
I
Like, I
think
get
the
third
degree that
graders
we have
on a
approached
website.
the town, to the degree that we have approached the town, it's money that's preventing us from going any bigger. Same for the town and the village. So like Art says, it could be a couple of years before we see what we ultimately want to see. But in the meantime, Kate has been doing a really good job of making slight tinkering to ours, which will make it a more user.
Adjusting where you can, yeah, that makes sense.
And the LEAF program is going to be rolled out to the public tomorrow night at 5:30. If anyone has an interest, you can go on the Lake Placid Insider and there's a link. And I think this is a perfect example of what it could be used. One of the things that could be applied for a grant. Because it's something that'll help the community and the tourists to interact better with the village and the town.
It can be just less expensive if the town moves away from that workshop, but save money. But that's up to
Hey,
them.
Art, I just want to say you guys did a tremendous job in developing the LEAF program.
I wish I could take credit for it, but there's really a lot of talent on that board. It was fun
Yeah.
to watch them work.
Obvious. Yeah, you did a great job.
Thanks. Yeah, it's going to be a great benefit to the community.
Yeah, a lot of money.
Okay, anything else? Art, are we all set there?
I think that's everything, unless anyone has any questions of me.
No, I think you've been covering a lot of meetings lately between land use code and LEAF.
I suppose the other thing we could mention is the community director position that the town is going to be hiring. Craig and I have been sitting in on those meetings. We're in our second round. We finished those up today. We're down to 3 candidates out of 19. And we're getting close. We're really down to 2 choices. One is to go with the candidate that's got the most experience, or someone that doesn't have the experience, fresh out of school with all the degrees, and learn and grow in the position. And that's what's being fleshed out right now. And this board, that committee's recommendation will then go to the town. The town has the final authority on that. But the hope is to have that person in place by the end of the month.
The hope.
The hope. And there are 3 areas of responsibility will be to promote the comprehensive plan, housing. Oh boy, and what's the third one, Craig?
Communications.
Communications, correct.
Yeah, and essentially they're taking the 3 priorities of the Development Commission. If you think about how that organization has been working through its volunteer committees, those are the 3 that are always at the top of the list. There are always other committees that the commission appoints upon the request of the supervisor or the mayor to help the community with various projects. But those are the 3 that I think they focus the most on in terms of the people they're looking for. But we should have more information on that. There's a further meeting of that group tomorrow, and as Art emphasized, this is not a village board decision. The ultimate decision is a town board decision. However, when we have awareness of a direction and which way the group is going, that is certainly something that can be shared with the board. Under mayor items, Art just mentioned that Tuesday, tomorrow at 5:30, there is a virtual link that you can connect to, and you can listen to the public presentation of the entire LEAP program. I certainly would encourage each of you to do that because this program is potentially going to benefit the community for years to come. It provides a pool of funds that will underwrite various community projects as they come up with. And again, the village does have a seat on that committee, as does the town, but ultimately the town makes the ultimate decision as to whether an application is approved or not. but there's a lot of information, and I think it'll all be displayed tomorrow afternoon at 5:30. The second thing I just wanted to announce, and this is for the board members, I sent out, and department heads, I sent out a link just before this meeting to each of you. Mike Pratt at approximately 3 o'clock tomorrow during the town board work session is going to be presenting a presentation that relates to the improvements that ORDA is planning for the Olympic Oval. If you have the time, I provided the link to you. I'll try to do it again tomorrow, but because I didn't have the agenda today yet for the town, but I would encourage you to look at that and see. I've seen a preliminary sketch of it. I think a lot of thought has gone into it, especially since funding has prompted them to kind of revisit that whole project. But overall, I encourage all of you to, if you're around at that hour of the day, to sign in and listen. I think that's all I have for tonight that I'm adding to it. Are there any commissioner reports that should come up?
If on Greenwood Street, Kimball, and you may have, I'm sure everyone knows, and the public's not here to, but he put up more LED lights. So if you drive down Greenwood, there's 3 sets of different lights. So I generally like them. They're not, it's almost, you don't need to, you actually have to turn the lamps on in your own bedroom and living room to see, as opposed to just getting the light from the trespass light from the lights from the street poles.
I mean, they're too bright.
Pardon?
No, they're path directed. If you remember the other ones, they shine like a spotlight on the road instead of blanketing the entire neighborhood.
Yes.
Certainly LED lights have the characteristic of directing the light. It's a much crisper experience. We had them on Wilmington Road for a while, and they're interesting because they really are very intense, but they direct their light in a much more contained way as opposed to broadcast.
At a lower wattage too, so it saves the village money as well.
The hope was that would reduce our street lighting costs for the village only, exclusive of the outside lights in the town, but it would reduce it from 55,000 a year. We were thinking that ultimately the replacement with LED fixtures would bring that cost down maybe even to the mid-20s, which would be over a period of years would be a nice benefit to the village.
Not to mention it's the right thing to do.
Yep.
Agreed.
Anything else to come before the board tonight? If not, and I don't see Liz on, anybody that's attending virtually have any questions or comments? If not, Scott, we're open to your motion.
Motion to adjourn the meeting.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Meeting's adjourned. Thank you all.
Thank you.